So we're up here in the mountains, as you can see. And it's so funny because we've been on the hunt for elderberry blooms, which is what I'm going to jabber about in this little quick video. And we're probably at about, I don't know, 8,000 elevation right now. And this elderberry tree is blooming, this blue elderberry tree. But down in the valley where it's only 2,000 elevation, they aren't blooming yet. So this little lady has definitely adapted to her climate, their short season. But sometimes we can come up to the mountain in like July and find elderberry bloom. So, but this must be a pretty sunny slope. Anyhow, so you've probably heard about elderberries. You've probably seen the syrup in the store. You've probably bought an elderberry tincture. You love those little blueberries that keep flu viruses away, colds and stuff like that too. But I feel like she's a very like overutilized and underutilized plant at the same time. She's overutilized where like people like really like heavily harvest nothing but her berries, and she's underutilized in the way that she can offer us so much more healing than just her berries. So if you come over here, you'll see these beautiful cream-colored blooms. Ooh, thunder. And you'll notice this with most elderberries. There's all different kinds of varieties. We have the blue elderberries here. And, what? Oh, it's a plane. Okay, I was like, that's a long thunder. Anyhow, so a lot of people don't realize how medicinal these blooms are. She has, of course, a lot of the same actions as the elderberry itself, but she has some pretty unique ones. Like, she's amazing at reducing fever. So you can pick yourself this elderberry bloom. You want to make sure that you're getting ones that are all the way bloomed, like this one up here. And you want to make sure that you get it soon enough that if you look underneath here, here, let me take that camera from you. If you look underneath, all of our professional cameraing skills. So this bloom is perfect. Okay, now it's focusing. And you see how if I get real underneath there, there's no little berries forming. There's none forming quite yet. And that's good because a lot of people are afraid of elderberries. They're like, oh my God, elderberries are poisonous. Well, yes and no. There's some problematic alkaloids in her seeds and her bark and her everything besides ripe berries, basically. And so you don't want to be eating her leaves, and you don't want to be eating green berries. I'm going to hand this back to my husband, just so you can get a better... and you don't want to be eating the green berries, and like when you make like elderberry tea, it's important that you cook the berries. Now, tincturing counts as cooking, drying counts as cooking, freezing doesn't quite really, but anything that's going to break that cellular structure, that aside. So when you gather these to make a tincture or save them for tea, because she's an amazing tea for colds and flus and fevers, you're going to take the time to pluck these blooms off of the stems. And you're going to make sure that there's no little green berries underneath and that she's all the way open. So like this bloom right here is not all the way open, so you wouldn't want to use her. But another thing that people don't know about elderberry blooms is how amazing they are for our skin. So you could take these blooms and you could dry them. And then you could infuse them into oils and use it to make a face cream or a face serum or a face salve. You could turn it into anything you wanted, really. And she's amazing for calming down irritation, cooling hot skin. She's good for acne. She's good for scarring, dark spots, all that kind of stuff. But the elderberry tree still has more that she can give us. Her leaves, and you're like, whoa, you said the leaves are poisonous, but don't go eating them and you'll be fine. You take these leaves, and I see a lot of people when they gather elderberries, they're specific, like just to take the berries, and they really feel bad if they get any of the leaves, but I'll cut like that. That way I have these leaves available. And you know why? Because her leaves are amazing at healing up wounds. And actually, she's very specific for bruises. A lot of you might have called home my bruise salve before, my elder bruise salve. And I use, one of the main things in that I'm using is elderberry leaf. I wilt the leaves and I do a long-term oil infusion. And then you just turn that right into a salve. And anytime if you're prone to bruises or you've got a real bad injury, I even had one gal where she had nose surgery, I believe, and so she was told she'd have like black eyes for like weeks, you know. And as soon as she got out of surgery, she started using my elderberry salve, and she wrote me a message saying that like she was amazed because it was like literally gone in a matter of like a week, you know. And so she's pretty amazing at that. Now her bark, I wouldn't advise it because there's gentler ways. Her bark is traditionally used as a laxative. So I mean, if you really need to take a shit and nothing else is working, you can come out here and peel off some of the fresher bark and you can make yourself a tea. I wouldn't drink a lot of it, and that would be a last resort. But mainly I feel like people really underutilize the blooms and the leaves of this plant. Now, of course, you need to understand that when you harvest these blooms, that you will be like no berries will form. So it is important to take lightly. And if I harvest, I wouldn't harvest off of this little guy because she's, you know, she's small. But if I were to harvest blooms off of this plant, only if I take like, even if I only take a small amount, it's off limits for berries. Right, because you got to remember that there needs to be berries for the wildlife. These are crucial food resources for birds, particularly in the fall and stuff like that. So anyhow, you're smart enough to find elderberry trees. They're all over. They're probably where you live. There's different varieties. Even the red ones are safe. People are afraid of them, but they're safe. And you can find her growing along riverbeds, roadsides. She loves those. Train tracks, although you really shouldn't gather from those areas unless they're super remote and aren't used very often. And you can just find her basically growing anywhere moist, anywhere that gets a lot of water. She's a good indicator for springs too. And you'll often find her around old homestead sites because they knew that it was good food and medicine. So anyhow, that's what I have to say about elderberry, and thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, turn on notifications, head on over to my bio here to find me on Instagram and other places and just say hello. Oh, and comment so I know you're watching, so I know that like I'm not just talking into the void and not being seen. So thanks for being here with me, and I will see you next time, okay? Bye.